Welcome back, listener. I apologize in advance for my voice. I'm getting over sort of this stuffy, non-COVID respiratory thing. But this episode is coming to you hot off the press. At this point, Stephanie and I are over 40 episodes deep in the podcast. Thank you, listeners, for being so loyal to this podcast. And normally, we're at the point now where we're recording these episodes in advance. But we wanted you to have the most up-to-date information about this upcoming Memoir course launch. And so that is why we are recording this literally the day before you're going to see it. I can't even remember the last time we recorded with that little time, Stephanie. We usually give ourselves at least a week or two in advance. We have some guest episodes coming down the pipeline that we recorded a couple weeks ago, but this one is really important. And we just wanted the chance to get to share this information with you. This is the second iteration of my Memoir Master Plan cohort. And what that is a small group virtual coaching around creating your core message for your memoir, as well as creating a very detailed outline. I first did this course back in April, and one of my participants left me one of the sweetest reviews in saying, "This is the course I didn't know I needed." Now, this was a participant who had started already outlining her memoir, already having an idea of what she thought it was going to be about, that core message piece. And through the course of the information that I shared, the large number of references I brought to the table, she really got to hammer down that core message that's going to be so impactful to a reader, as well as figuring out the scene by scene points that she needs to make. So now when she's sitting down to write, she looks directly at her plot and her detailed outline that she created during the course, and she's ready to go. The words can flow out. So I'm going to be launching the second iteration of this, new, improved, updated, and expanded. And that is going to be launching within the next few weeks. So please make sure you're on our email list. If you're not already, please subscribe, because that is how you're going to save your seat. Again, this is a small group offering because I really value that group dynamic and that intimacy where we're talking about our personal stories, that trust. And so this is going to be capped at a very small number. There's not a lot of seats available. So that's why we wanted you, our listeners, to know about this and subscribe if you haven't already to save your seat. Stephanie, I wonder if you might be willing to share a little bit about how you've benefited from working with someone else on your writing, specifically since we think of writers as typically working most of the time in isolation.
Yeah. Well, first of all, listen, I just want to say that you definitely do not want to miss out on this opportunity to work with Elizabeth, because she's done all of the footwork that you don't need to do. You can jump right in and have the benefit of all of the resources and insights and experience that she has. And so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. And I would say that there's just so much benefit from working with someone, and especially in a group setting, because you have the accountability piece, you have the community piece, which is huge. And if you've been listening to our podcast for a while now, you know that Elizabeth and I are so big on talking about the benefits of community. And we know for ourselves, just with each other, that it's so nice to be able to say, "Hey, do you have time to write today? Like, let's write together." And just knowing that someone else is writing in the same space and time as you is just really powerful for keeping the momentum going with your writing. And especially with memoir, where it's so personal, and sometimes the challenges of remembering your personal stories can maybe stop you in your tracks because you're not sure if you should share it. I think it's even more important to seek out, especially a small group cohort like Elizabeth offers, to give you the support and the encouragement. Because of course we all think like, oh, our story is not that special, nobody's going to care. But truly, listener, you have a story that is going to touch somebody's life. And that's what I've heard from multiple people in my life who I've talked to about my writing. They say, your story is going to touch somebody. And that's the power of showing up to the page. So I'm going to turn it back over to Elizabeth here a little bit to talk about, what are the benefits of coming to this course and saving your seat now?
So, the key takeaways from this course, the things that I sort of promise to you as you are purchasing this course and deciding to enroll and taking this step with your writing, is that you're going to figure out a core message and you're going to know how to do that. Like, we are going to go through journaling processes and talk about what that looks like in the general story arc to determine whether that's something worth writing, whether that's something that readers are going to be interested in. And you get to know, get that feedback in that group setting. It's not just, oh, yeah, I think that's a great idea. The whole group is going to be able to give you some pointers. Or as we experienced in the first group, one person gave an example with like, oh, well, I'm thinking about this. I came up with this core message. I'm not sure between these. And there was just one the rest of us had a strong reaction to as being like, oh, please write that one. Right. So you get a little sneak peek at your potential readers and what their impressions may be of your core message. And then we also break it down and go in a 3-arc story plot, generally around the framework of the hero's journey. But we break it out even more in future weeks with character development. We explore the goals, motivations, and conflicts of your various characters, including yourself, since it's your memoir, but also other key players within your story. We talk about subplots and also storytelling how-tos, things that will surprise and capture the audience, keep them engaged on the page, and continuing to flip and read your story. And so the way that I've done this, the way that I've constructed it, it was originally 4 weeks. I'm expanding it to 6. And there's going to be so much bonus content I'm excited about along the way because we've had a number of conversations with memoirists since then. I have so many more resources available. And the main focus that we're going to revolve around the actual structure of the lessons comes from 4 different books. So these are 4 books that I have read and researched and dissected, creating lesson outlines as well as accompanying worksheets and journal prompts that you can use to craft your story. And so we will start with Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. That will help us explore our core message, tap into memories, and help us weed through what our overall message could be to our reader. And then we are going to look at the hero's journey through the use of Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. And that is very specific beats within a story. It's not just the 9 stations or whatever of the hero's journey, but that goes even deeper into very specific moments that you can use to make sure that you're controlling the proper pacing of the story. It comes from screenwriting. So it's the kind of storytelling that the audience is going to expect, right? We know the hero is going to make an attempt and fail early on, right? And so it's making sure that you're crafting your story, your memoir in a way that gives the reader what they are expecting and allows you to really capture those moments of highs and lows within that journey and make sure that you're really hitting those things and not brushing over the failures that can be great learning examples for your reader. Then we dig into Story Genius by Lisa Cron. Now that goes way more into character development. That's that goals, motivations, conflicts. And she has a scene by scene card that she uses in her book that we also use within our course. This includes the act, the scene number, the point of the scene, anything happening with any subplots, as well as cause and effect of the plot, and also development of the story or the character development of why does this scene matter? What's happening here? What kind of realizations are the characters having within this scene? And because of those things, what is happening then next? So, something happens in the scene, therefore, we move the plot along. And that is going to help us really create an engaging character profile for ourselves because it can be so difficult to write about ourselves. And it's also going to make sure that all of our scenes have a purpose. This step will quickly help you identify what stories are maybe better used in just a short story form or a different work that don't belong within this particular memoir. And then the last book that we explore is Storyworthy, and that's by Matthew Dix. And this is all the how-tos and the do's and don'ts of nonfiction, the ways that you can condense time or expand time and still be within the creative nonfiction genre. It's the white lies you could tell are just the omissions you can leave out that don't change the integrity of the story, but give more delight to the reader. And so this is where we're going to wrap up our time. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of bonus content along the way as well. I'll be pulling from different memoirs that I have found to be very effective examples. And we get to do it all together. So not only do you have weekly meetings where you get to discuss everything within the lesson plans, and you don't have to read these books yourself. You already get the benefit of the fact that I have read these books. I've condensed them down into, 30-minute, hour-long lessons that you read ahead of time. And then I have worksheets so you can easily apply them to your own story. So that's really the key of the course as far as those who don't really have time to waste to get started and also want to know that at the end they're going to have an outline that they can use to guide their writing and they're not going to waste time writing stories that are relevant to this particular work. And I do want to quickly emphasize that this can be for a writer at any stage in the process, whether you don't have any ideas yet, but you want to tell your parts of your story. If you aren't even sure if you want to share your story, but you just want to explore the writing for personal development and kind of self-nurturing inner child work. This is also great for someone, like I mentioned, a participant that already had a pretty decent idea of where she was going and a general outline. And even for me, I ran my own book through this course back in April to kind of do a kind of double check of my work, essentially, and making sure I was building a course that was going to do what I said it was going to do. And through that process, even though I was already in the editing phase, I recognized some serious flaws in my plot line. And I remember telling you, Stephanie, like when I had totally finally landed on the right timing and pacing, because that was my issue. So those save the cat beats saved this cat. And I remember telling you when that happened, and I was like, oh, now I feel like my reader is going to get my story. I wasn't so bogged down in the background and the nitty gritty. And so this is a big part of why I created this course. It's for anyone in the process, and you don't even have to have a published memoir as your final objective. You could certainly use these same outlines to create poems, a book of poems, or to structure a fictional story if you're too close to your own and want to fictionalize all or most of the work. This will still set you up to do that. This will still follow those same sort of arcs and help you figure out which parts of your story you want to share.
Yeah, there is just so much, listener, that you're going to get from this course. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking, while I'm not writing memoir, I might jump in and join in on this process, this go around, even for my own work, because while it's not memoir, it's definitely, there's a lot of influence from my own life. And there's no doubt that using a resource like a book like Save the Cat, if you haven't read it, and just benefiting from the fact that Elizabeth's read it and knows the beats and knows what you need. And, it's so powerful because, of course, as we know, we all love going to the movies. And so having that influence from, Blake Snyder, who wrote the book and has the beats that we all know, we're all familiar with, it will just move your memoir along. And it's just really a good way to structure your book to keep the reader engaged. And I just want to back up just for a minute, just for our listeners to just dive a little bit deeper into the idea of a core message, because I think we understand it and we've talked about it a lot and we've talked about it in previous podcasts. But what for somebody who's sort of thinking like, oh my goodness, I don't even know if I have a core message. Like, what does that mean? Like, I have to have something that is going to ground my memoir. Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't even have a message. I just have me. So what exactly does that mean? What is a core message?
So the core message is what really makes a memoir stand out from an autobiography. It is basically the lesson that you are showing that you have learned over the course of a segment of your life, right? And so it is typically, I walk people through this process of figuring out and brainstorming what sort of misbeliefs they had when they were younger and why did they have those? How did those get created? Whether that's, Things like, I'll only belong if I become exactly what everyone wants me to be. That's kind of where I started. Um, Whether that's, this whole good girl framework and being stuck in that. That's a little bit more of what like the Untamed by Glennon Doyle focuses on. Um, Things like I'm a failure as a mother if I get divorced, which is the kind of premise around you can make this place beautiful by Maggie Smith, which I also feature in this course as a great example. And essentially, we're going to be looking at our own lives and finding where those lessons are. And that's why you can create more than one memoir, because I'm sure you're thinking, well, I've learned a handful of lessons. Like I can relate to that one, and I can relate to that one. And we're going to look and dig into those moments and figure out which one you really have a full arc for. Like where you've struggled, where you've grown, where you've come to a new, more truer belief about yourself or your world now here at the end of this memoir, at the end of this, period of time of your life. And literally memoirs can cover the span of, a couple days, a week, whatever, or it can be, majority of your life. It really just depends on the scope of your core message. But you're so right, Stephanie, in highlighting that that's what's so important, because that's what's going to give the reader the like, why do I care piece, or why is this relevant to me? Because we're not celebrities out here writing our autobiographies that people are just curious about how we live. This is something that the reader can theoretically either resonate with and feel validated in their own struggles, or apply similar principles to what you've done and what you describe through your story into their own life to make a difference. This is tapping into generally, internal strengths and internal qualities that everyone has access to in order to present a solution to a more universal problem. For me, lonely girl, that's loneliness, right? And that's the universal problem I'm kind of putting out there and saying, hey, I have something to say about this. I have found a solution that worked for me, and it's something that's applicable, reachable by anyone, regardless of socioeconomic status. Here's how you can do it too, right? So that's the core message. And that's what is so fundamental, because if you have too many of those in one book, which I started out that way, or you just don't have a clear one, either your reader's going to get confused, or there's going to be a lot of jump in storyline. They're going to get lost, or they're just not going to care. And we want your story, your experience is so valuable that we want it to come across as effectively and clearly as possible. The more specific and authentic you can get, truly the more people you're going to impact. People don't see themselves in just a general description of, oh, I'm a coffee drinker. Are you a coffee drinker? Yeah. But if you say, I love the minute pumpkin spice latte season hits at Starbucks, I am in line within the first week. There's going to be so many more people that are like, yeah, I'm that kind of person, because it's more specific. People see themselves in the specific. And so that's where we really want to nail down the core message. And that's why we do it first.
That's just amazing. And I just think that, again, like you said, that creating a relatable context and space for your reader is so important. And the core message is so important and powerful. And two, as you mentioned, you had multiple core messages at one point with your own memoir. And so just walking through this process for yourself helped you realize that, oh, it's better if I focus here as opposed to trying to put everything in at once. And then it, of course, allows for, possibly more memoirs down the line of different stories or short stories that you can publish, and all kinds of opportunities. And I think too, as we mentioned at the beginning, the benefit of having a community, a safe space to come to. And listener, I'll tell you, Elizabeth creates such a safe space for participants, and you'll just feel, your story is honored, and it's a place where, what's talked about there is going to stay in there. And so, you can really trust that it's going to be a place where you can be truly authentically yourself. Because of course, we talk about that all the time, about how even as we're doing this podcast and we're doing all the things we're doing, we're making sure that we're staying true to ourselves. We're not following, whatever the latest trends are all the time. And, we're sticking to what we believe in. And I think that that's so important. And of course, through this course, you'll find that, and you'll find that you'll, find yourself and your voice. And sometimes that can be really hard to do when you're sitting by yourself and thinking that you have to do it all in isolation. And I get so frustrated when I hear that people think that, like, oh, as a writer, I have to be by myself in the ivory tower and shut myself out from the world in order to accomplish this. And truly, I will tell you that even for myself, I have gained so much more from writing with others and being in community with others than I do with my own self. And just knowing that others are writing their books or I'm writing alongside them, it's so powerful. And so I think that that's such a key component to consider. And of course, a small group too. What's better than having a small group? I mean, when we went to a conference earlier this year, there were a couple of authors sharing about how, they had a group of 3 and they supported each other and set goals, and that's a huge part. And you'll find community within this, and you'll just find such support and the possibility for continued support after as well.
Yes, thank you for saying that, Stephanie. I'll share another participant's review of the course. She said, Elizabeth is wonderful to work with. I felt right at home when I took her memoir writing class. When we were in group, she helped me feel seen and heard. I enjoyed the group dynamic, and the course material was very helpful and unique. Elizabeth's class helped prepare me and propel me forward in my writing. And then another participant shared that Elizabeth has a gift for helping writers share their story, willing to go beyond surface level discussions. She guides writers through the process of getting clear on their message while holding space for the heartfelt emotions that arise. And those participants did such a great job of encapsulating what I felt like was the essence of the course going into it. And I just have to say, like, even having read the books and going into the course, knowing what I already knew, my own book changed so much through just being in conversation with other writers and hearing even their thoughts and their ideas and how they were doing things differently. It made everything kind of click. The gears were churning again. The times that I'm writing with people or working with people are the times that I see the most dynamic shifts and growth in my own writing or outline or book. And the other thing that I think you are so astute in noticing, Stephanie, is that even as a fiction writer, even with just minor influences from your personal life, yes, most of the books that I am referencing, or at least half of them, are built for fiction. I've adapted them to memoir for this course. And so I take them from a memoir slant, but they are fiction writing books. We are just simply turning the character development on ourselves, the lens on ourselves, the microscope on ourselves. Whereas you can take those same things that we are talking about and just simply put it on your main character, fictional or otherwise. And so I have taken the time to adapt them, but these are absolutely fiction writing methods and would benefit a fiction writer as well.
Yeah, no, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna jump in this go around because I feel like I need it. I've shifted again in my own focus. And so I just and I love, like I said, I just love the idea of being in community with other writers. And we can all benefit from learning from different genres to enhance our own writing. In fact, I've heard multiple authors talk about how they can't read in their own genre when they're writing their books, that they actually read in all different other genres to continue having that influence of just reading and what readers are expecting and what they remember about being a reader. But that sometimes they can't, read in their own genre because there's too much distraction. And like we mentioned in our podcast from last week with Go as a River, the influence of poetry and how that is, poetry just is depthful and heartfelt and tells stories in and of itself, and how much that can influence writing. So again, listener, I hope that you will consider this course and get yourself on the wait list There's a link in the description, and, jump into this opportunity. You don't want to miss it.
Well, listener, you heard it here first. You're not going to get just one coach. Now you're going to get two because Stephanie is going to be in there as well. So this is going to be such a fun group, such a great time. I already am just getting chills at like all the things we're going to learn, all the insights that you're going to bring to the table, Stephanie, if anyone else from the fiction writing perspective wants to join us, or even just providing that outside of genre, insight to storytelling. So, oh, I'm so pumped. Yes, listener, get on this. Again, this is a limited capacity class. We keep it small on purpose. And so click on that link. Let me know you're interested, and I'll be sending some follow-up emails with more specific details for those that are specifically interested in this course. It'll be starting within the next few weeks. It'll meet weekly on Fridays through a Zoom call. And then you'll be getting tons of bonus content to watch, to read, to explore throughout the week as well. So yeah, I would love to have you. It would be so great. And Stephanie, I'm so excited that you're going to join.